All right, it's a little after 3, so we're going to go ahead and push to get started. If that's okay with the chair, we can do a quick roll call of who's here, a little bit of housekeeping, and get moving. Is that okay with you, Chair?
It looks like John's muted. So Jessica, I'm going to have you go ahead and do that roll call, please.
All right, so we're just going to go down the list. So far today, we don't have anybody joining us in person. Everybody chose to join us via Zoom today. So nobody in the room except for Jessica McMullen and myself, Jessica Bechtel at PPACG. So out on Zoom, I will name off everyone that I see. If I miss you, just let me know, and we'll make sure it's shown that you were here for the minutes. So I have Carol, Paul, Roy, Chair DeVoe, Shelley, Ed, Ann, Donna, Bill, Michael. Is there any other CAC members that hopped on that I didn't see? Yes, and Paul. Yep, got him. Anybody else going once, going twice? All right, so with that, when making a motion, just remember to state your name clearly so that way we can capture those in the minutes. And if you are not speaking, if you'll just make sure you mute yourself on Zoom so we don't get the background noise. If you need to comment or anything, the chat works great for that, or you can raise your hand on Zoom. We monitor those as well, and we'll help the chair to know you want to speak. Other than that, I turn it back to you, Chair.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Sure can.
Finally, I think somebody released it for me. Okay, let's begin the meeting. This is the Community Advisory Committee meeting of September 29th, 2021. Taking care of calling a roll on that. Thank you. At this point, we'll act as a whole, the agenda, minutes, and board financial reports. Does anybody have anything that they want to add, change, correct, delete concerning those? And if they are, speak up now. Hearing none, we'll look for a motion to pass all 3 of those. And we need a motion and a second.
This is Carol. I will,
Dills.
Wait a minute, we stepped on each other one at a time.
Go ahead.
all right. As Carol Campbell, I will move to approve those 2. And Ed, you can second me.
I will second you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. If that, we'll go on to public comments. The public can email general comments or comments regarding the agenda in advance of a meeting to the PPACG office administrator at bechtel@ppacg.org. Okay, do we have anybody that wants to speak as a public comment? Is this the time to do that?
We received nothing by email. And I don't
Okay.
think we have any guests here. So unless there's anyone online, we are good to go.
At this point, we'll move on to informational items. Okay, the item A, PPACG Military Planning Program Update. Paul Roche, Military Planning Program Manager. Paul, you're up.
Paul has not yet joined us. So if it's all right, if we can have Jason go on with the 4B traffic safety media campaign.
Okay, fine. We'll move to item B for now, and we'll come back for Paul. Traffic Safety and Media Campaign Update. Jason O'Brien, Transportation Planner. Jason, if you're there, it's your turn.
Yep, I'm here, and thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually think that we've spoken with this group late last year about this item, but we've had another year of the campaign, so we thought we'd check in, give you an update, and then ask for your guidance a little bit for next year's campaign, which we're planning on doing. So I won't go too deep into the background, but I'll just give a brief recap. So the project really began in 2018 when the region broke its historic traffic crash fatality record. So PPACG started asking around about what the regional organization could do to help. So we talked to law enforcement, county planners, traffic engineers, and folks in education. And pretty much everybody agreed that it wasn't a problem with the roads or the design or enforcement. None of that was being done differently. The real issue was worsening driver behavior and poor decision making. That just seemed to be getting worse and worse and was defeating a lot of the traditional safety measures that were being taken. So our approach to that was a public messaging campaign. I think that lined up pretty well with the problem. So last year we hired Drive Smart Colorado for their expertise in that area to design a public media campaign for us. And they picked out 3 real themes from the conversations and the data that we have of drunk driving, distracted driving, and motorcycle safety. Those were three areas of particular problem in the region. And so last year's campaign was entirely via social media because the traditional media was made expensive by the presidential campaign that was going on. So that was really kind of out of reach. So it was all social media. And at this point, I would ask Jessica if you can show those ads, the video ads that were developed. There's
Give me
a
1 sec, I'll load those up for you.
Sure. And there should be a handy little folder with 3 ads in it.
Yep, got them.
Thanks. So while she's getting that queued up, we did develop the ads in several different formats. You're going to see the video versions. Oh, I'm going to stop talking so she can play those.
Don't crush your life. According to the latest research, driving under the influence kills or injures 1 person a week in the Pikes Peak region. Be safe. Drive smart. Pikes Peak region. Don't shatter your future. Locally, motorcycle deaths happen almost weekly during the Colorado riding season. Be safe. Drive smart. Hey Pikes Peak region, don't text and drive. 1 in 5 distracted driving crashes result in serious injury or death. Be safe. Drive smart.
Thanks. Can we move to the slides now for this item?
Yep, let me get that loaded up for you.
Sure. So that was the video version, but the ads were developed in several different formats so they could be displayed over several different social media platforms, which we'll show you in a second. And we hired first Drive Smart hired a sub-consultant who is sort of an expert in optimizing these things to get us the most efficient reach for our dollar. And then we hired the same folks directly this year just to make sure that we had a lot of efficiency and we're getting a good reach with the social media component. One thing we did differently this year was that we added radio, which we really couldn't do last year, but we thought that would help us get the full reach to all the demographics that we wanted to hit with the campaign. Okay. And we can actually move on to the second slide at this point. I'll get back to that. So we'll show you a little bit of the type of optimization that was done here by our consultant. And it's hard to measure the long-term efficiency of these things. We did get some numbers for results. But what we do know was that it was very, very efficient and we got an excellent reach per dollar. So I'll just cut ahead a little bit to something that's on the slides. And we got about 5.2 million views on social media just in the month of August last year. We've been running the campaigns in the summer because that tends to be our peak accident season, crash season in the region. And there were about 50,000 engagements. So that was just folks out there interacting with the ads in some way, clicking on them, listening to them, reading them. So it didn't just flash in front of them. Another thing that happened was it was nice to get some real world validation of the project. We had a lot of people come tell us that they had seen the ads or heard them on the radio this year. Anybody in the audience see or hear the ads this time? Well, anyway, we asked the same question at our board meeting where we had a bigger audience, and we had a whole bunch of folks in the audience raise their hands and say that they'd seen or heard the ads. So that was kind of fun. So we did add radio this year. Are we having a little trouble with the slides, Jessica?
Are they not showing?
I don't see them.
Oh, let me try again because it looks like they're showing on our end. Let me back out and do it one more time. Sorry.
Okay.
Here, I thought we were sailing along.
They're not essential.
Technology. Let's try this again.
So it's a multi-year campaign. We have partners up at CDOT who do these types of public messaging campaigns pretty much every year. And they say that they do get some bounce in their crash numbers, that they do get some results from running their campaigns, but only if there's some repetition. So, you know, the common wisdom for these things is that just doing a one-off doesn't really have much impact. So we're happy to do this across multiple years. We had a 2020 campaign, and we had this year's campaign with social media and radio, and we're planning on having a 2022 campaign. They've each been funded with $50,000 of Ppacg planning funds. And that's the plan for next year as well. It could change, but as of now, that's what we have budgeted. And now we've got slides. So sorry about skipping around. The slide that's in front of you now is just sort of flashing in front of you the type of optimization that was done across social media platforms. This was from 2020, but we did the same type of thing this year alongside the radio ads. And then we can go to the next slide. Okay, I think this might just be a click through. There we go. You can just click through it because I've talked past some of this stuff. So these are just some of the ad formats because each of the social media platform has its own little formats and requirements. So happy to have a consultant to put that together, and you can just keep going. So this is just, oh, sorry, that last one was just a snapshot of one of our radio buys that we did. So Jessica McMullen was kind enough to take the time to learn about this and to make a couple of radio ad bundle purchases. So this was one of the two. I just wanted to show it to you. It's the Iheart Radio Group, and they own a bunch of radio stations, and you purchase a certain amount of reach from them in your demographic for the radio stations that they control. We did Iheart and then another bundle purchase. So just wanted to show you what that looks like. We've gotten a little bit of feedback so far about what we might do differently or in addition in the 2022 campaign. AM radio has been mentioned, and then a couple of other specific stations have been mentioned, but we can really branch off even more if we like. So I thought we'd just open it up and ask for your ideas, if any thoughts you had about this. And we can't promise to do everything, but we can see what we can do within the budget.
So what's your, I'm sorry, this is Shelley with the League of Women Voters. What is the average age of texters?
Good
Average
question.
group?
You mean of the people who are texting and driving?
Yes, sir.
I can't answer that one specifically, although I could probably find out and get back to you. I can tell you what we did run into age-wise, if this is helpful, was that early on, a lot of people, their sort of reflex reaction was that the problem must be young drivers, inexperienced drivers, and older drivers who, you know, it just seemed to be the reflex to blame these two groups. And what we find when we look at the data is actually opposite, that the greatest increase in crashes the past few years and behind our record-breaking fatality years were experienced drivers, middle-aged drivers making poor decisions. So that was a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people, but the data do bear it out. So I don't know if that's helpful.
It does. It's my demographic.
Mine too.
And no offense. I am in marketing and I don't pay attention to those ads on any of those places that you just pay. Because it's almost like white noise for me because we're in that business. And I definitely don't listen to radio. No offense, but it is a dying breed of our communication as well as newspaper. So I guess my thought to you would be, or my question to you is to find out what other means, because again, I totally scroll past Instagram, Facebook ads, Twitter. It's just, again, white noise. I see that enough on television and I fast forward it through that as well. So any other ideas on that demographic, podcasts, those types of things, I guess would be my first go-to, because podcasts are the next radio.
That's interesting. Yeah, we can definitely look into that. Yes, we can. And that's why, and we're aware of what you're saying too. And that's why we didn't want to rely entirely on radio or social media. So in 2020, we sort of had to rely on social media because the presidential election just had traditional media so expensive. And we wanted to get a good reach for our dollar. And we added radio this year. We sort of split the budget between the two, but we're definitely open to trying other media. So I've got podcasts as something to try. Any other ideas in that vein?
Events, Jason, maybe some big community events, that sesquicentennial event celebration for Colorado Springs, right?
Okay.
Something like that. Maybe your dollars would go well there. That beer brew, maybe again, my demographic, I'm a beer drinker. So maybe some community events.
Community events, yeah. Okay. And I'm taking notes here, so that's what I'm doing. So I've got podcasts, community events as things to explore. Anything else? That's pretty good for now, but if you've got more, we can look into more.
Was Nextdoor on your list?
No, but that's interesting. I'm on Nextdoor. I didn't
Nextdoor.
think about it for advertising.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else or anybody else?
Anybody have any more questions for Jason? If not, well, thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Very
for the
informative and
input.
thank you. Okay, at
Great.
this point, okay, thank you again for coming. Paul Roche, are you up yet?
He has not yet joined us, so we'll just keep going through the agenda and summon back to him when he arrives.
Okay, the next item is an action item, which is FY 2023-27 tip draft for public release. John Lasotos, Transportation. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello. Thank you very much. This is actually an item you've seen before, and just as by way of an update, I think last month you saw it as the information item that comes through first. We don't always do it, but what we like to do is have something goes through first as information, let people look at it, and then we bring it back again next month for information. After you guys saw the item and said, yeah, you're good, go ahead and take it to the board for information. We had some issues with the Colorado Department of Transportation, and rightfully so. They looked at some of the tables and they said, hey, the numbers don't quite add up correctly. And that was because that it wasn't intended to be the full amount of numbers. It was only going to be for that 5-year period within the tip. So we had to sort of take a step back and look at that. Additionally, there was also some numbers that didn't quite jive because we were using different match amounts than CDOT. And so we also had that issue. So we pulled the item from the agenda to the board. We've gone back to the TAC. They have fixed the funding numbers and additional programming So everything balances now on the STP dollars and the transportation alternative dollars. So that problem has been fixed. And now, and we've also, working with CDOT, we believe we can fix the sort of informational issue with looking at some of the numbers, that chart. So we think we've got everything worked out. And so again, we're bringing this back for you today. Again, you've seen it before, but what you're seeing now versus what you saw last month is slightly different in that we've adjusted some of the dollar numbers so that we have fiscal constraint, i.e. we're not trying to spend more than what we actually have. So the fiscal constraint issue has been adjusted. And then we will continue to work with CDOT to do that. So what we're looking for today is, again, hopefully everyone's still comfortable looking at this, that we're looking for you to go ahead and send it back to the board with a recommendation to release it to the public. So what we'd like to do is then go to the board. Is it next week or in 2 weeks, right? So we'd like to go to the board in about 2 weeks or 10 days at this point, not next week, but the week after, and ask the board to go ahead and approve it and go ahead and release it to go out to the public. Now, again, once it goes out to the public, that just starts the process, right? So there still could be changes based on that public input and everything else. So that's where we are today on all of this. The whole thing where we're trying to keep on schedule because we've already sort of made plans to do open houses on certain dates. So if we can stay on schedule, great. But if people are really like, I've got major concerns, this is wrong, you guys are rushing it, we can tap the brakes and go ahead and slow down. We basically gave that opportunity to the TAC and they were comfortable moving forward as is. Because again, those adjustments, and again, it's subjective. So I'm not trying to lead anybody in a certain direction they're not comfortable with, but from their perspective, they felt that it was relatively minor adjustments. So they were comfortable moving it on and trying to keep on schedule. So hopefully if you guys are comfortable keeping it on schedule, after I answer any questions you might have, we're looking to get a motion to go ahead and take it to when we take it to the board of directors, that you guys also will recommend releasing it to the public. Again, it just goes to the public. It goes through that public process. It'll come back through the committee process again for final adoption after we've done that. Last thing I want to do is I'm going to mess up his name, I'm sure, and my apologies for that. But is it Mr. Sugart? Is that right, Jessica? Anyway, you have a CAC member, Gary Shugart. He sent a question in advance, and I see I don't see him there, but I would like to go ahead and sort of address his question, even though he's not, because some of you might have the same question, or if he comes back and looks at the video, he can get his answer as well. So he had a question on the vote to approve this particular item. He had a question on a tip ID 2019-20 that it shows a cost of 45.72 million. Can you provide me more detail on the spending breakdown of the project? And will this project replace the current asphalt with concrete paving? So that particular project, the number probably means nothing to you because it meant nothing to me. I had to go ahead and look it up. Is actually the I-25 Fillmore to Garden of the Gods project, bridge repairs and resurfacing. Okay. So that's the question that he had. I reached out to CDOT and I asked them to help me answer that question. The additional funds that are coming on, that $40 million, is part of the Senate Bill 260 allocation. So again, those are funds that are coming from the legislature and back. So that will help get that project finished. That was the first part of his question. And then the second part is he had sort of the, hey, what's the funding treatment? and it, were, you know, the pavement type. And according to CDOT, that their design plans are only about 15% complete. So because they're only 15% complete at this time, they have not actually determined whether or not it would be asphalt or concrete. That's something that would be done down the line. So I think that answers his question. Hey, Kathleen, I didn't see that you were on until just now. I don't know if you heard any or all of my explanation of how we're working with you guys at CDOT to fix the problems you've identified with the funding tables and other stuff. But I did want to give you an opportunity if you wanted to comment on any of that, if you heard what I said and I got it right, or if you want to add anything.
Thanks, John. I didn't, I just joined you, announced or covered, but I feel confident that we're getting the problems worked out in the tip, and feel confident that it won't be a concern. Just more clarity on a couple of items is what I understand are the main concerns.
Great. So, Mr. Chair, we're happy to take questions, and I see that Patty's got her hand up. If you want to start there, Mr. Chair.
Patty, would you go ahead?
Thank you. John, I just wondered if you could go ahead and point us to where those major changes are from what we saw previously so that we can easily identify those before we vote on that.
Yeah, actually, so can you Jessica, just be, can you go to the website and call up that 13-page document? It was basically the page 7 or 9 or something like that. The major thing is that the one chart got updated. And while she's looking that up, the one chart got updated to address the numbers. Yep, that's it. This one, stop right there. Thank you. Or as Meatloaf would say, stop right there. So that chart had to have some of the numbers updated because of the TAP and the STP differences in what we had used as a match amount. So we've adjusted that, and those monies have been sort of reprogrammed. So one place where it's different, if you scroll down a little bit more, when we get to the actual projects. All right, if you could stop right here, Jess. This particular chart would have had a couple of minor changes. First minor changes, we went through and we again changed again a few dollar amounts on the some of the projects for STP and TAP. So that's slightly different. And then we have not fixed this chart yet in terms of what Kathleen and CDOT have been talking about. You see how it's got the 5 years there and then the total? What we had done at Ppacg is we have the 5 years within the program, but then we gave you the overall project total. So if you try to total up those 5 years, that total doesn't jive because there's a bit of information we haven't given you because we thought we were being clever by keeping it on a page and making it streamlined. But as Kathleen points out, it's actually becomes more confusing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and provide a note saying there's additional rollovers and what do you say, Kathleen? We said additional rollovers and previously expended funds along with the current program make up that total difference. So those are the things that are different, if that's helpful, and maybe it's not.
Did that help?
Yes. So John, were those numbers then that you referred to earlier, were those reduced or increased? We talked about fiscal restraint, so I assume they were reduced, but can you clarify?
Sure. The STP dollars, we actually received, I believe, approximately 45 more thousand per year for 3 years. And those dollars were added to the big project there, which I believe is the Woodman extension. On the transportation alternative sides or transportation alternative projects, because we used a different match amount, that was actually a negative number. I believe it was like 18,000 over the 3 years or something like that. And that project was actually reduced in funding to make it up. But again, that was the 30th Street project. I didn't tell you the project. I told you the amount, but not the project. The 30th Street project was reduced by that amount because it was basically the main project that was receiving all of the transportation alternative funds. So that 30th Street project received slightly less funding, while the Woodman project received slightly more funding. But when you look at the big scheme of the hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's a relatively small amount in comparison.
Thank you. That was all I needed.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for John? If not, we'll look for a motion to move this back to the main committee and prepare it for putting out to the general public. I need a motion and a second for that.
Patty Bencher, I make a motion to recommend the Ppacg Board of Directors release the fiscal year 23-27 tip draft for public review and comments.
This is Roy Rosenthal. I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Now we go to, well, before we do that, is Paul Roche in the group yet?
He is not. So we'll just
Okay,
continue.
We move on to item B, amendment to the Moving Forward 2045 Pikes Peak Area Regional Transportation Plan. Mark Northrup, Senior Transportation Planner. Mark, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Northrup, Senior Transportation Planner and lead on the Long Range Transportation Plan at Ppacg. So today, staff is asking you to recommend approval of the plan amendment to the Ppacg board. But before you take action on the plan amendment, I want to provide a quick overview of the amendment and let you know what's happened since I came to you in July. All the plan amendment information, including the plan amendment document and a supportive material, can be found in your agenda packet. The plan amendment includes 11 new project proposals and 1 request for change to an existing program. Given the revised financial plan estimates, all the proposed projects can be incorporated into the plan without the need to change funding for any existing projects in the plan, and the plan will maintain fiscal constraint. An environmental justice analysis was performed on all the projects in the plan, both the new as well as the existing. And staff determined that as a group, the projects do not disproportionately impact federally protected classes and have the same potential impact on minority and low income concentrated areas as that of the entire region. It was also determined that modeling didn't need to be run given the minimal impact of the new capacity projects. In terms of what's happened since we last met, the plan amendment went to the board in August as information. The plan amendment document was released by the board for public comment at the August meeting. Prior to release of the plan amendment, the board requested additional language be added to the rail station design construction project in the plan amendment document, letting stakeholders know that final approval to spend funding on the project would be done through the TIP. Also, no comments were received during the public comment period. A public hearing was held at the September board meeting. There were also no comments received during the hearing as well. So unless anyone has any comments or questions, staff is asking you to recommend approval of the plan amendment to the board. Thank you.
Patty Benger, I recommend approval of the amendment to the Moving Forward 2045 Pikes Peak Area Regional Transportation Plan to the PPACG Board of Directors.
Thanks, Patty. I was on mute. We need a recommendation we need an action for the motion and a second. Do I hear a motion and a second?
Well, I
This is
think
Donna
Patty
Wood from
already
NEPCO.
did it. This is Roy
Patty gave our
Rosenthal.
motion. We're looking for our
This is Donna Wood from NEPCO. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We got that recorded who it was?
Good to go.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Member discussion. Oh, we gotta have something.
This is Patty Benger. I just wanted to let everybody know that the Pure Water Colorado demonstration, I don't know if you've heard about that on the news. It's a mobile unit that shows the advanced purification process behind direct potable reuse. So it cleans recycled water to a level that meets or exceeds all drinking water standards. So we are offering some free mobile demonstrations if anyone would like to see how that how we are treating that water and considering how to potentially add that to our portfolio in some future years. There's some public tours available Tuesday, October 19th from 11 to 12 and Saturday, October 23rd from 10 to 11. I'll put a link in the meeting. So if anyone's interested in going to that, it's really neat to see the numerous cycles and different technologies that we're using to clean water. Water is such a scarce resource, of course, so we're doing all we can to look to the future and potentially bringing this as a new system.
Patty, I've read articles over the time that they even make these small enough to put into an individual home where you can take care of doing that and process it. Is this for more of a large system of doing a city or a large company or something to that effect?
Yeah, potentially. This came from a grant from the state, and we developed it with the Colorado School of Mines. So it's a trailer that shows how it could be done on a larger scale. So we're using this as the first utility to do the mobile demonstration to see what it would take us to do on a larger scale, maybe implementing some of this at some of our existing facilities in the future.
Great idea. That's moving forward with progress and technology. Excellent.
Yeah, so I put the link in the chat if anyone would like to come and see what it's all about. It's a really neat tour to go to. It's pretty quick, about an hour.
I'll be glad to.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for her on this subject? If not, items for the next CAC meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got something else for member discussion, please.
Oh, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. This is Shelley with the League of Women Voters. I'm sure as most of you already know, school board elections and ballot issues are coming up in November. So October is kind of a busy month. If you haven't seen those candidate signs out yet, you probably will. It depends on what district you live in, but pretty much most of the school districts in El Paso County have a school board election this year. And then of course there are a bunch of ballot issues. So on October 23rd, the League of Women Voters is having a ballot issue discussion at the Sand Creek Library on Academy Boulevard. And if you want to go to the league site, depending upon, again, what school district you're in, our website is lwvppr.org. And of course, if you have any questions about any of your candidates, our go-to is always vote411.org. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for her? If not, items for next CAC meeting. I-25 gap update from CDOT. Anybody have any comments on that, or anybody want to talk about that?
Be awesome if the update it's done.
Yeah, that's just fine. Thank you. The PPACG meeting and event schedule. You got anything on that, Jessica?
We just wrapped up. We've got one more class left in the 2021 Ent Retirement Series, and that's going to be Monday, October the 4th. And then we begin our last Medicare series on Thursday, October the 7th. And the only thing other than that is we'll begin discussing next month the nominations committee and the schedule of our meetings for the holidays with November and December. We'll obviously be coordinating with the other departments to see if there's anything they do need votes on, if they need actions by PPACG. But that is something you will be hearing from us starting next month is the conversation. When are we going to meet? In November and December? And who wants to serve on the executive committee next year, and who wants to serve on the membership nominating committee? So.
Anybody have any questions?
Jessica, are organizations allowed to have meetings in person yet at the building?
Not really. We are still in progress trying to define things, but with the current CDC recommendation of all people wearing masks, we are not fully encouraging meetings here. So.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? If not, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to make the motion?
This
Roy
is,
Rosenthal, I'll move to adjourn.
and this is Carol Campbell. I'll second.
Very good. Thank both of you. I've had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying goodbye. No.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Bye. Thank
See you
you.
in a month, okay?
All righty. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.